Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Thriving Adoptees podcast. Today, we've got a special treat for you. We've not had anybody from India on the podcast before, and not somebody that still lives in India. But Ujaala Chaudhuri, welcome to the show. Looking forward to chatting with you today.
Thanks, Ben. And it's great to be an Indian adoptee from India, living in India.
Yeah. So, do you know Vin? Do you know Vin? He grew up in Australia. He was born in India,
No,
no, you don't know
no.
him.
I know of him, but
Sorry?
we
You know,
haven't. Yeah,
okay. Yeah, he's a good guy. That's the closest thing we've got, right?
not
That's the
bad.
closest thing we've got. Somebody that was born in India, then raised in Australia. So, Ujaala, you found out that you were adopted when you were 9, right? If I remember rightly.
Yes.
Yeah. What when we were thinking about a theme to tie everything in together, we came up with a pretty simple one of healing. So, what does healing mean to you?
So I think the first thing I'd like to share is that through my journey, I've understood that, first of all, healing is not linear. So it's not this wonderful graph of, feeling really good feelings and, being on the journey towards healing and then, not going through phases of upheaval. So I feel that that's been my biggest journey and my biggest learning in this journey is that healing is not linear. And for me, healing is moving beyond a narrative that I've been fed my entire life. It's about moving beyond what I've been given and really creating and building something that has value and meaning to me, which is entirely dependent on the life that I'm choosing to live from here onwards, you know, and letting go of a lot of preconceived notions, letting go of a lot of pain and hurt and rejection. And also being aware, like I said earlier, that the journey is not linear. So there will be a lot of ups and downs. There will be a lot of breaks in the road. There will be a lot of feeling really overwhelmed and days of actually feeling nothing at all, but it's all a part of the journey. And I think for me, healing is about being able to move forward and to not fall back into um, believing that whatever story we're given, that is who we are. I think healing for me means creating my own story, creating my own journey, and moving on.
Okay. Wow, there's plenty there. Yeah, there's plenty to get our teeth into. One of the things that comes to my mind is that on one level, right, if we were looking at this from an Eastern philosophy more than a Western one, some Eastern people would say that we are already and always whole. They would say that if we were they would be making a difference. They would be differentiating between who we are and what we feel, and the essence of ourself being whole already. So there seems to be like a dichotomy here that on one level we are already and always whole, and another, from another perspective, we're always healing. How would you see that?
I think as an adoptee, I speak for myself, but I feel like I've always lived a very dichotomous life, anyways, in the sort of feelings and journey I've been on. Um, However, I feel that I think for me, I don't really believe this notion simply because I feel that we're constantly changing, we're constantly evolving, or so we hope. And I think uh, feeling whole or wholesome or complete is actually just a state of mind. I think it's a concept. I think today, if I choose to feel whole or feel complete and, I'm, it's just how I feel. Tomorrow I may feel completely differently. And I feel that we're constantly, I've lived my life as, from so many different dichotomies that I've never really felt anything's really stuck, so the only thing that's been constant in my life has been change. And from that perspective, I really feel that this, for me, the whole thing of feeling complete and whole has always been a concept. And I think as human beings, we're constantly healing from what we're leaving behind and moving beyond, so I'm not sure I really adhere, or I don't connect with that thought
No, don't
really.
connect with that Eastern philosophy. No. So when you say dichotomous life, are you meaning you're meaning a foot in the in you, with your birth family, your biological family, and your adoptive family? Is that what you mean by
No,
the
I
dichotomy?
think in terms of the journey that I've lived as an adoptee, I've always, I felt so much love, and at the same time, I felt so much loss. I felt so much guilt as much as I felt gratitude. I felt like I've had to uh, really be so grateful for everything, and yet genuinely feel that, hey, the other person on the other side um, should feel as grateful as I do, because I'm an amazing human being, and they are very lucky to also have me in their life. So it's been a very dichotomous living, or life or journey, because we've been conditioned and made to believe certain things, and while most of us carry that a long way, of course some of us choose to leave it behind. There's also another way in which we feel and how we choose to live, you know so for example, gratitude and guilt has pretty much been my predominant uh dichotomous feeling and emotions. I've
Yeah,
always had to feel grateful, and at the same time I've felt really guilty because sometimes I've not really given a damn and I've not really cared at all.
yeah,
you know so that's what I meant by dichotomy.
dichotomous. Okay, so have you talked about that kind of external narratives, the external narratives going beyond the narratives and looking obviously at the external world there. Um, have you been told that you should feel grateful?
Oh, my entire life
Yeah,
I've been told that, my entire life. And unfortunately, in a country like India, where adoption is looked at, the topic of adoption, the subject of adoption is itself looked at with so much taboo and secrecy and shame. um, One of the main reasons why adoptees are not told or informed of their adoption is because there's so much of taboo and secrecy and shame and attached behind it, that for me, I remember as a child, every time I felt really connected or close to someone, I would share this big secret of being adopted. And that is something that made me feel very, very close and connected. And I always felt that it was not something that I could really share with everyone, you
yeah,
know? And that made me kind of understand that uh, I was sort of conditioned to feel immense gratitude, because these wonderful people had done such a huge thing for me. They'd given me a life, they'd given me a roof over my head, they'd given me food, they'd given me an education, they'd given me so much. And how could I feel anything but gratitude? And so even the people that I chose to tell this big secret to, um, it was so confusing, because 80% of the response was like, wow, you're so lucky, you must feel so much gratitude, or you must be so grateful. Or the other bit would be like, if I remember at one point in my own family there was an argument that happened where I actually dared to question, my history and where I'd come from, and I was asking a lot of questions. And I remember someone in my own family said that, why don't you just shut up and be grateful, that you've got a roof over your head, you've got food in your belly, you go to a good school, you are taken care of by so many people. Why do you ask all these questions? Just be grateful, So it's something I've been hearing all my life. And it's become it came to a stage where it got really heavy, just carrying this whole external narrative, because it was never my own. I didn't ask for these people. I didn't ask for this. I wasn't even given a choice. So I, while of course I, I mean, everyone wants to assume that I have a better life now than I would have had if my birth mother had kept me. These are all just external stories. No one really knows. And the fact that I've had to live or be lived on by someone's external validation just made me miserable. And it was much later that I finally decided that I don't want to hold on to this because everyone is holding on to it for me. I get to decide, you
Yeah.
know.
So it's quite a lot there. Can I just take you back just for a bit of context? Are you saying that adoption is more a taboo subject in India than it is for example in the UK or for the US? Is that
Absolutely.
yeah, okay, yeah.
Absolutely. That's also a big reason why adoptees don't have the information.
Yeah.
It's
Can
not even
can you give
considered
us
obligatory.
can you give us a kind of, this is a bit of a strange question, but can you give us a scale? So would you say it's twice as taboo? Would you say it's 10 times as taboo? I'm just trying to get a feel because, like you're the first first adopted from, that's living
So
in India that we've got. Is it like way, way bigger? Or, what's your
it's
take?
way bigger because there's so many layers of why it's considered taboo.
Yeah,
For example, I'll give you this example that DNA testing in India is actually banned. So when you get into your family and in ancestry, other than your immediate parents, your family ancestry, that's actually banned in India. There are no DNA tests that allow you to go back into generations of family. And the official reason given is privacy, right? Because you're not just going into one set of families, you're going into generations of family. But the real truth of the matter, unfortunately, is because of the politics, the corruption, the class system, the caste system in India. It's a real mess. So you never really know what you're going to find out. And to protect the interests of these vested parties or people, yeah, that's not allowed. Which is why I'm saying that the taboo attached to the topic and subject of adoption is way murkier and it goes way deeper than anything we are even concur at this stage. A lot of us, we don't even know. Like, for example, I don't know if I'm, for example, a product of incest or rape or some sort of, like anything like family, uh, whatever. It's so deeply rooted in so many things, and it's also a caste. It involves caste. It involves class. You know, for example, it's very, very unfortunately, it's very, very common for domestic help in India to get raped regularly or to be providing sexual favors to the owners. And that's also another example, another reason why there have been so many you know unwed unwed mothers, or unwanted pregnancies.
yeah.
So I'm just giving you an idea of just scratching the surface of why, as a
It's
topic or
huge.
a subject of conversation, it's a lot of shame and secrecy and taboo attached to this topic in India.
Yeah. So for somebody like myself who has no take on the caste system, can you give us a couple of minutes on that? What that means?
So basically, India is it's a huge landscape, and there are so many cultures, there's so many communities. You have so many class systems, by which I mean income groups, and within those income groups, you also have the caste system, which essentially means that like your family comes from a particular segment of society, and they're basically very, very different from each other. So you have like the Brahmin caste, which is very, very educated, very well to do. Then you have like the caste system and class system, and within the class system you have like caste systems as well. So you have, for example, the untouchables in India. They are considered the lowest rung of the caste system. And within the caste system, you're usually not allowed to marry, you're not allowed to interact, sometimes you're not even allowed to speak to each other, you know
Wow.
and
Wow.
it's yeah, so someone
It's a
from one.
highly, it's like an institutionalized and a national level of stratifying different people
Yeah,
according to
it's an economic social
the
strata,
whole
which,
thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and it's mostly, I mean, it's horrifying, but it's actually within so many layers of the class system itself, you know so
Okay.
within your class system you have layers of casteism as well. So, and that's also dependent on not just your economic status or your social status, but it also depends on your family name, you know
Okay.
and very often there's the interaction between are not allowed.
Okay. And it's pretty inflexible, so people don't move.
It's very deep rooted and
Yeah.
it's very intolerant, so there are instances of what we call honor killing, which is basically, if people within the caste system marry, then it's when the family of the better, or the better in the sense like uh the the parties of the caste system actually think that it's okay to kill in the name of honor, in the name of their family. So it's yeah, it's very deep rooted and it's very prevalent even today.
Yeah. Okay. And there's like, and the population of India is huge as well. It's like a billion people, I think, is it?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're way more than that, right?
Yeah. Okay. So back to the, thank you for that. So we're getting a picture of a highly judgmental, highly stratified social, cultural
Absolutely.
dynamic, economic across the whole thing, and then we bring adoption into the mix of that, and that's treated, that's frowned upon and shamed because we've got a culture, economy, and society that's based on judgment. Others, judgment.
Absolutely. Intolerance, judgment, you know. So there's really no place for something as, like, the question is never as simple as uh why couldn't your birth mother keep you? You know what I mean? It
Yeah,
can come down to that because there's so many layers and levels included.
yeah,
Like, in fact, I know several adoptees who, have been adopted into middle class or, upper middle class or rich families who today, one of the main reasons that they voluntarily choose not to find out more about where they come from is because they don't really want to know if they came from a lower income group or a lower economic group or, something that goes into such deep rooted layers of caste or class,
right.
because again, the thought is that I don't know how I'm going to take that. Or what if, my birth parents have some expectations of me, to take care of them financially or otherwise, So yeah, it's
It's
very
tough,
deep layered and rooted.
very tough. So back to the gratitude thing, then. So I got you're talking about this dichotomy of gratitude and guilt, uh, and the people were, this horrific stuff from your own family about being told to shut up and be grateful, which must be absolutely horrific. Um, oh, have you have you felt? Is the gratitude that you have felt in the past, has that been kind of like imposed on you? Is it like you've been? Is it like you've been brainwashed, or is it something that you feel kind of naturally from within you?
I think it's a mix. I think for most of my earlier part of the journey, by which I mean before I started asking questions and decided to go on this healing journey, I feel I felt that the whole gratitude story has been very exhausting. So while of course I've been grateful for not just the people who adopted me, but for my entire support system, for everything that I've received in my life. Because I feel as human beings, gratitude is a big part of who we are, and it should be so. I feel that the way that it's been imposed or conditioned into me has been very exhausting, because it's made me doubt myself, and it's made me feel like, uh, am I not good enough to feel anything more than gratitude? You know, am I not good enough to feel that I deserve to be here? Am I not good enough to feel that, you know, I am creating as much value as the other person in front of me? Am I not giving back, in my life as well? Why am I treated as, this exotic thing that's just brought into society, and now I just have to be grateful for everything, you know? I think I'm way more than that. And my story and who I am as a person is more and more than that. And I will always be grateful for everything in my life, no matter how difficult it is, no matter what I've been through. Because that for me is who I'd like to be as a human. This is very important. But I don't let it bog me down anymore. I don't allow my gratitude to really decide who I am today and who I want to be tomorrow. I feel gratitude's also pulled me down where I've stayed way longer in friendships, relationships, intimate relationships, work relationships, everything way longer than I should have. Because I've been like, oh, I'm so lucky and I should be grateful for this. But I've had to tell myself that, look, if you're not getting back as much as you're giving, then gratitude is not enough. You need to really stand up for yourself. You need to value yourself way more and let go of this narrative, this deep rooted conditioning of gratitude is what it is, and I'm not worthy of anything else.
Yeah. So do you see gratitude, and you said dichotomy, which to me implies opposites. To
Yeah.
me, I don't know, but so you see gratitude and guilt as opposites, yeah?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Because on one hand, uh, I feel a lot of gratitude for my adoptive mother, my grandmother who's no more. And I know that my adoptive mother put in a lot of her life to give me a good home, to give me everything that every child deserves. I probably lost out on a lot of nurturing because she was so busy giving me everything that, I deserved in terms of education, food, a good home, that I kind of lost out on the nurturing and the love because she was so busy giving the rest of it that she didn't really give this. And I feel a lot of guilt to even say it. I would feel a lot of guilt earlier to even bring it up, because I'd be like, oh my God, how can I even think about what she hasn't given me because she's given me so much, So if that explains the gratitude and guilt, it's something that I struggled with, I think, a lot of my life, you know. And I think even in friendships, it would be like, oh, I'm so grateful to have you as a friend. And then there'd be a lot of guilt because there'd be certain friendships where I didn't feel valued enough, and I'd feel guilty to say anything or to ask for what I deserved. And again, the same thing would repeat itself that, oh, why aren't you just grateful? And, why are you feeling so guilty? And, it would just be this constant um, struggle. And again, I think in intimate relationships as well, it's this whole push and pull thing that all adoptees do, or at least I speak for myself, where on one hand, I'd feel so grateful to be in something, and then at the same time, I'd feel guilty to really ask for what I probably deserved and I wasn't getting. So again, this whole, as I call it, ping pong would happen.
Yeah. And I'm getting it, like there's a sense. How would you describe the relationship, with this dichotomy? Is it confusing? Is it exhausting? Is it all of these things? Is it frustrating? What is it?
I think it's taught me a lot about the importance of balance. It's taught me a lot about who I really am as a person and who I want to be. It's really taught me so much about not really holding on to things that I don't need to, and you know, I would love to be someone who is grateful for everything that I've received in my life from everyone, all my experiences and everything, and yet not feel guilty to leave things where I've held on to for too long just because I've been way more grateful, you know. So it's taught me a lot about balance. It's taught me a lot about standing up for myself. So as frustrating and as annoying and as hurtful and painful it's also been a great uh, it's been a great teacher.
Yeah. So when you're talking about, how who you are, that identity thing, I mean, are you talking about character? How are you defining? How do you define identity? Personality, character? What is it? All encompassing? What? How do you see that?
I think identity for me is a lot about acceptance. It's about accepting that I don't know, for example, the first 20 pages of my life. I don't know about it. It's acceptance, knowing that I might not ever get to know a lot about it. But it's also about the acceptance to look at where I am today and really decide for myself that the past that I'm not aware of is not my identity. You know, the people in my life that I've lost, they are a part of where I come from, but from where I stand today, they're not necessarily who I am, you know. And I think for me, identity is about creating my own identity, personality, who I want to be. Also being completely aware that today where I am is completely dependent and responsible for where I am tomorrow and not who I was yesterday, not what I went through in the past.
Mm.
You know, it's about the now and going ahead. And I feel there's a lot of loss and sadness that I feel for what I don't know about my family, about where I come from, about my potential siblings if I have any. But it's also about knowing that that sadness, that um yeah, I think more than anything else, it's sadness, and that sort of not knowing is not gonna define who I am.
Yeah. So I'm guessing by the things that you've said about the system as it set, as it's set up in India, that um, finding your birth mother is kind of like an impossible task.
Right now, it seems impossible. I think I don't have full access to my papers, and right now, I'm not really sure how to go about it. I've written to Kara, and Kara is actually the Central Adoption Resource Authority, asking for my papers, providing whatever information I have, and I haven't heard back, and it's been a while. Uh, I'm sure there are ways to get the information and paperwork, but I'm not. It's pretty much a gamble,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
because there's no sort of legal recourse, and also because I was adopted in 1981, which was a zillion years ago, and the systems and processes and paperwork were very different than how things are, were much later. So yeah, it's not easy at all, and especially since I was adopted. I was adopted from the Missionaries of Charity, which since I think 2014 or 15 have gone under the Central Adoption Resource Authority, which is CARA. So many of the people who are in the orphanages or in the NGOs aren't there anymore. So it's,
Yeah.
yeah, a bit of a
Record and
puzzle
complaint.
remains. Yeah.
So looking forward then, in terms of you defining, setting out who you want to be, who is that? What is it that you want? Who is that you aim to be? What? What do you mean by that?
I think I want to be someone who is not defined by my past of not knowing. It's not defined by my past of rejection. It's not defined by my past of being given up. Like my, there have been so many instances where I've actually been told that who's going to love you, who's going to, care about you. Your own mother didn't. You were thrown in the dustbin, you know. So, and I think all of us go through these very heavy, overwhelming feelings of remembering a lot of that. And in that moment, we all get to choose what is it that we want to believe and how is it that we want to live. And I feel that knowing how that's made me feel, I never want to go back to feeling that way ever again because I know that I'm the most powerful thing in my story. And for me, the person I want to be is someone who really believes in my potential to tell my own story and to help other people tell theirs, you know. And I feel that one thing I've really missed out for so many decades is because I've always felt like I've had to shut up and be grateful, is not really speaking my truth, not really sharing my stories, not really feeling the feelings that I've had on this journey. And the person I want to be is to really be able to do that, to use my voice, to speak about it, to make a difference, to help people, to listen to their stories, to be a part of their journey, you know. And I feel we can create our own stories, and it's a big. I'd like to be part of a big patchwork of stories, you know, and that's who I want to be. I don't want to live in the past and you know continue with the whole all I can ever feel is gratitude.
Yeah.
Or all I must ever feel is gratitude. Not even I want to. So
Yeah. The gratitude thing, I hear so many people, especially in the States, being told that they should feel grateful. I was never told that I should feel grateful. So that's why I kind of ask about it, because it seems to me the challenge is it's totally denying how so many of us feel, right? So if you're feeling guilty and you're told you should be grateful, it's like you're completely denying I never heard of it. I've just made up this word, right? You're denying my emotional freedom. You're denying my ability to feel how I'm feeling right now. And that's got to be really, I've had that. I've had that in other contexts, and it's really tough. It hurts like hell.
I think more than hurts like hell, I think it really not only is it of course dismissing, but it really makes you, at least has made me doubt myself so many times over. It's made me feel that I need to actually shut up and not voice my thoughts, voice my feelings, voice my emotions. And I don't have any business to really belong where I am, you know. So it's just been very self demotiv I mean it's not, how do I put it? It's just made me feel more miserable about who I am, and actually I should be feeling so much pride about the fact that I've been through all of this and look where I am.
Yeah,
Still here. I'm still going strong. I
yeah,
still want to overcome everything, and it's been a journey. It's the most toughest thing I feel for me has been to be able to move on and not hold on to any grudges, any sort of rejection, any sort of disappointment, simply narrative of, you know, wherever you are today is not because of you, but because of someone else who gave something to you or brought you a home or whatever. And in fact, I feel that's not true at all, you know.
So where do you think that power has come from to move on, that inner power?
Uh, I think it's just having a lot of compassion for myself because I find as adoptees, very often we find ourselves needing the most compassion, for our own selves. And of course, it's wonderful to have a community of fellow adoptees who, you can speak to and, share things with, and, always have a ear to kind of, open up and vent to. But I think first, compassion for yourself is the most important thing, you know. And as we all have, pretty much most of us are soul survivors, or always, we're always figuring everything out, and we're always doing things alone, and we're so fiercely independent. I think an important part that I've realized on my journey is the importance of having incredible passion for it, and to be able to use that compassion and make decisions accordingly, and to really, I sometimes have such difficult mornings where I have to tell myself that, hey, listen, it's okay. Show yourself a lot of compassion, show yourself a lot of love. And from that, really muster up a lot of courage to make some really wise choices for yourself. Be selfish. It's okay to be selfish.
Yeah.
We deserve it.
So where does the courage come from then?
Determination, I think, is just, I feel it's more like I've not shown myself that sort of compassion and courage for so many years that it's about time I start doing it now. And now that I've found my voice, I think I'm getting stronger and stronger and stronger to show myself a lot more compassion.
Yeah. So it wouldn't come from anything like your soul or your spirit or anything like that. It comes from these things that you're talking about. It comes from
My
compassion.
spirit is my determination. Who I am today is a result of the spirit that I choose to. I mean, it's the sort of attitude that I have, sort of determination that I've actually had to teach myself.
Yeah.
I've had to. I mean, it's always been there, but it's been like, okay, now is the time to really muster up some courage. Now is the time to be really determined to, really be this way. The spirit's always been there, but it's just been like, oh, do I need to, do I deserve it? Am I worthy? And at the end of the day, you are your own best human being.
Yeah.
you know
So is it mindset? I mean, does mindset play a role, or is that a sideshow?
no, I think it's, we all struggle with, feelings of self-worth and self-doubt every day, and so much fear. And it's a daily battle to really lift ourselves out of it and say, you know what, we deserve way better for ourselves than feeling not so great and not worthy and feeling fearful.
Yeah.
So we all go through it.
So what have been the other? We've obviously talked at length about the kind of the guilt gratitude dichotomy. What other dichotomies have been?
Loss and love, I think that's a huge part of my life. uh I feel I've lost a lot, but the reason that I felt so much loss is because I've also felt so much love. And I think it's also, it's 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 been situations where, I've given so much in so many dynamics of myself, and when I've lost it, i've 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 struggled with that loss, but I know that in that time there was no other way. So again, it's a bit of a struggle with letting go, which is something that all adoptees, or most adoptees, at least I speak for myself, I struggle with a lot, across all my, and it's been like something through childhood. Like I'm always going to be the friend that tries way more harder, puts in a way more effort, feels way more love. And then when that friendship kind of disintegrates, or I lose that, I feel a lot of loss. But I also know that I feel it so deeply because I've also felt so much love for it at one time. Relationships, friendships, family.
Yeah.
So
So there's two sides of the same coin, are there?
yeah, it's just, I think, like I said earlier, like what this journey has taught me is the importance of balance, you know, and also this acceptance that there is so much loss because there is so much love, you know.
Yeah. So I'm conscious of time. What else is I want to give you? Because I wrote so much stuff down when we spoke last time. What am I not asking you about that you'd really love to share with the listeners?
I think what I'd like to share with my fellow adoptees and friends is that we do belong where we are today, right here, right now, and we deserve everything that everyone else seems to have, which we are made to believe that we don't really deserve. And I think we ourselves get to tell our own story. Some of us might take a little longer than others, but we should never give up on ourselves because I don't think there's anything more important than really being true to who we are and really listening to how we feel and having the strength and courage and determination to really voice it you know and I think we've led we've been so sad and dejected and rejected and miserable and always doubting ourselves and living in so much fear. We need to let go of a lot of it because we only live once and we need to live for ourselves you know so don't stay in things where you feel that you know you're not getting what you deserve, because it's about time we started getting what we deserve, because we deserve to belong exactly where.
Yeah, I heard something really great a couple of months back, which was, what if our destiny is where we are right now?
I don't really believe in destiny. I think, if I chose to give in to how shitty I was made to feel, I wouldn't be here having this conversation at all. Because that could have been my destiny also, right? I feel in control of, we're not in control of a lot of things. A lot of things happen to us, with us, but we are in control with how we choose to respond to them. And that is something that we should really own, you know. I
Yeah,
wasn't in control of why my birth mother kept me for 7 days before she gave me up. I wasn't in control of who my adoptive family were. I was in control of a lot of things. But I am in control of how I chose to respond. And for decades and decades, I I didn't speak up. I didn't feel. I didn't process. I didn't deal. But today, I am the only person in charge of how I choose to respond. And that is the most powerful thing that we all have, regardless of where we come from, who we are, what we've been given. We all get to decide and respond to everything going on in life. So I don't really believe in that. You know, I know I am here for everything that's happened to me, and I myself am responsible for changing everything that happens to me going ahead.
yeah.
It's got for me, it's got nothing to do with that.
So what is it that you want for the future?
I want to be actually. I want to look ahead and not keep looking back, which is something that I've been doing for a lot of my life. I'm constantly looking behind. I'm constantly looking back. I remember this year, this birthday was strangely more difficult than the other previous birthdays have been, because there was a part of my brain where I was hoping to have found some answers pertaining to where I came from my getting some sort of paperwork, finding out some more information, but that didn't happen. So this birthday made me feel a lot more frustrated and angry. And I think I was getting so frustrated when everyone kept saying happy birthday. And I was like, oh, thank you just seems to be again like this whole repetition of gratitude repeating itself on the birthday. And I just wanted to be left alone. I just said that don't wish me. And there was actually very few people didn't wish me because they knew how that made me feel. It was more of a, you know, today's the day when we decide to come and show you that we love you. Today is the day when we decide to take you out for dinner because you mean so much to us. You know, today is the day that we decide to spoil you a little. And I know that that was their way of saying happy birthday, you know. So for me, I want to go ahead. I want to stop feeling this way, feeling like I'm being held back, feeling like, so much of how I choose to spend my day depends on whether I've got some more information, thinking thoughts like, has my birth mother even remember that it's my birthday? Is she dead? Is she alive? Am I getting closer to finding out more about her? Am I getting further away? All these thoughts, right? They can be it's a bit of a slippery slope. So I think I want to be the sort of person who is so strong and is so, I wouldn't say not bothered or affected, but is so strong that these thoughts don't impact me anymore, you know? And I'm just powering ahead because I know that wherever I'm going, it's going to be great.
Cool. Fantastic. Thank you for sharing today.
Thank you. I'm I'm really happy to be a part of so many wonderful stories, and I hope my story resonated with you.
Thanks, listeners, and we'll speak to you very soon. Cheers. Bye-bye.